In this video, I have some fun tuning tendencies for you, just a couple different quick tips for your tuning. This has been a really fun mini series that I've been doing, talking about all of the different things that contribute to tuning, and I think today's couple of tips will be really insightful, hopefully, as well. But first, I want to give a little message and just tell you about something that I think might be useful and interesting for you. So, did you know that you can actually support this YouTube channel and support what I'm doing with QuickStart Clarinet for a monthly donation? It's not Patreon. I've considered making a Patreon, and maybe sometime in the future I'll make a Patreon, but it's kind of similar where you get some exclusive access to some really cool benefits every month, and it's just a really affordable $5 monthly subscription. And what that is the monthly masterclass archive access. So every month I actually teach a monthly masterclass to, there's a couple students in there now. I've had a couple students over the year or so that I've been doing this. It's a lot of fun. We get together every month, and it's sort of like mini lessons for everybody in there. But that's $27 a month. You can definitely get into that as well if you think it'd be interesting to have a little mini lesson and discussion and work with some other colleagues in a monthly masterclass type setting. But the archive access is a way for you to watch all of the video replays from past classes. You can see sort of my private teaching in action, see the tips and things that I'm talking about with the students. I've had everywhere from pretty beginner level students to very advanced students in that class, so you can see how I work with them and the different sort of things that we're working on. And the best part is that it's a great way to really easily directly support this channel. So there's no real Patreon or donation thing like that, but you can do that with the monthly masterclass archive, plus get access to all of those videos. And like I said, it's been going on for over a year, so I think there's at least 15 different videos, and also one or two pretty good bonus videos in there with some other teaching things that I've talked about on there before as well. So if you're interested in supporting the channel and giving a little bit of money, but you don't necessarily want to purchase any of the products that I have, this is a great way to just give a little bit of money, get a lot of value in return, and of course it's a way to show that you appreciate the videos that I'm doing, and it's a way to make it so I can do more of these and dedicate more time to making higher quality videos for you. So if you're interested in that, go to quickstartclarinet.com/masterclassinfo to check that out. Alright, so as you could tell from the title and the thumbnail from this, probably the two things that I'm talking about for tuning today is how the clarinet works with the other instruments, and also what happens with the temperature. So what gets really interesting when playing with other instruments in terms of tuning is again at the extremes of the dynamic. So if you've seen my video about dynamic extremes and tuning tendencies, you know that the clarinet goes flat as it gets louder and sharp as it gets softer. So it's an inverse relationship between pitch and dynamics. And that is true for all of the reed instruments. So clarinet, bassoon, oboe, saxophone, all the reed instruments follow that same tendency. Now, the fun part is flutes and the brass instruments have the opposite tendency. So flutes, as they get louder, get sharper. Brass, as they get louder, get sharper. And as they get softer, they go flatter. So it's a direct relationship between the dynamic and the pitch for those instruments. So you can imagine if you're playing a duet with a flute and clarinet, and if you guys both crescendo together, the flute's going to need to work to keep the pitch down, and you're going to need to work to keep the pitch up. So there's the potential that you could start a sort of mezzo piano note perfectly in tune together, and as you crescendo, the pitch could go in opposite directions, and that could be quite an issue. So that's just a fun thing that you get to deal with, and really there's no great solution to this. It's just practicing your long tones with a tuner at all of the different dynamics to get comfortable control of playing in tune at all the dynamics for yourself, and then knowing that you might need to do even a little bit extra to help your flute friend or your brass friends or whoever you might be playing with. Now, temperature is a completely separate variable that affects the clarinet one way and also the other instruments a different way. So for the clarinet, as you get warmer and as the temperature in the room is warmer, or just as you play and the instrument itself warms up, the pitch will naturally go up and get sharper. So sometimes it's not a bad idea to maybe pull out a little bit as you play longer and longer, or as the temperature of the room heats up. Of course, if you're playing with a whole band, that's probably happening for everybody. So if everybody isn't pulling out, then the pitch might just rise for everybody. And in that case, you want to match it and rise your pitch with everybody. And that's a great benefit because it's true of all wind instruments. Every single wind instrument goes up in pitch as it gets warmer, and vice versa goes down in pitch as it gets colder. Now, the real trick and the caveat is percussion instruments, the pitched percussion instruments like a marimba or vibraphone or xylophone, they do the opposite. So as it gets colder, their pitch goes up, and as it gets warmer, their pitch goes down. So this can be a real problem for marching band in particular, especially marching band when it's a little bit colder, because on one hand, a lot of percussion instruments are already tuned to A442, so they're already on the sharp side, and then the band often tunes to 440. I don't know why that's the case, but it is. So as it gets colder, the percussion instruments go sharper, the wind instruments go flatter, percussion's already a little sharp, so then you can really get a quite uncomfortable tuning gap there. So if you are playing in the cold, be sure to really be pushing in all the way. Try to keep your instrument as warm as possible. Of course, you should never ever be playing a wooden clarinet in the cold because that'll cause it to crack. But for tuning reasons, try to keep your plastic clarinet as warm as possible in the cold so that you can have any chance of getting close to the percussion instruments. And again, this is useful for pairs. If maybe in your band piece you have sort of a duet moment with the xylophone or marimba or something like that, know that they're probably going to be a little sharper or maybe a little flatter, depending on if the room's really hot, they'll be flat compared to you. If the room's really cold, they'll be sharp compared to you. So it's just good to have these things in mind. And sometimes it can be helpful to know, like, oh, that's why it doesn't sound in tune when I play with the percussion, or that's why that flute clarinet duet didn't sound super great. And with all of these tuning tendencies, your best defense is your ears. Just always be listening for the pitch, always have an ear out for how your intonation is going, and just work to match things. If you can be flexible with how you play, be aware and be pushing in or pulling out as available or as you have the opportunity, and just know that that's what's going on. And hopefully with this knowledge of how the tendencies work, that will give you more insight so that if you are playing with the flute in a soft dynamic, then you know you need to work to bring the pitch down because they're probably flat while you're tending sharp, so you need to do the work to bring it down. And hopefully they'll help you out and do a little work to bring it up. And that's the magic of using your ears, is that it can be a collaborative process where you're finding each other rather than just you trying to match them. But that's the end goal, is always to be matching, always to be sounding good. That's the point of knowing these tuning tendencies. But now you know, and hopefully that will help. Let me know if you have any other tuning tendency questions or any questions about this video. It can get a little confusing to remember, like, okay, temperature, which way, dynamics, which way, how that all works. So it takes a little bit of practice and repetition to remember these things. So leave any questions you have in the comments, any other questions about what happens to the tuning when X, Y, or Z happens, and I'll be happy to continue those. I have a few other sort of tuning tendencies series things that I've thought up for future videos, but I would love to hear anything that you all have questions about. So thank you for watching, thank you for commenting, liking, and subscribing, and I look forward to seeing you in another video.